That's all we get. Okay.
There he goes. The little goddamn pug. It's actually I don't know why I said pug. I better shut up.
I don't think. Well, you're not supposed to shut up. Okay, we're live now, so it's not time to shut up. So, well, I guess I can talk about what I found out about Philip Bell. Now, there's a evolutionary biologist called Philip Ball with an A. Philip Ball. Hit the ball, and he published with Royal Society when they did that big 2016 conference on information and biosemiotics. And I have seen I have seen his name, I think, yeah, on publications that I thought were like intelligent design. But I went and checked it out, and Philip Ball is an atheist, which he said during an interview. And he is not, and he's, he's complete. Oh, Cy is here. Okay. And anyway, there's a Philip Bell. We're going to add Cy. Oh, you finally showed up. Hey, can I hear you?
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Let me turn my camera on. Okay, I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
Hey, Mike, now I hear you.
Okay, good.
Sorry for being late. I had an emergency, but I'm okay.
Oh, you're okay?
Well, I fell asleep.
Well, that's emergent.
That was the emergency. Hold on a sec. I gotta move. But what happened was I was sleeping and God said to me, "You're gonna miss Mike." And I said, "Okay, I'm getting up. Don't bother me."
So God took the time to send a message from me?
He cares about you. He does.
Wow.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me get set up here. Oh, okay, here we go.
I'm pretty impressed.
I couldn't resist.
That's the first time I've heard from him in years.
Well, yeah. I know what you mean. So how have you been?
I've been pretty good. Demeter and I started up on our work again after a 2-year break. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're hitting it from a different angle slightly, and I'm cleaning up that code base, which became really big, and it is a real challenge to write it I'm writing code now that I'm proud of. So anyway, yeah.
Well, I mean, my memory is you were always doing a great job on that, and
well, we did a lot of code, but it wasn't well written. It was just put together in pieces, as we went along.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. I guess I mean I don't know enough to know that, but I don't remember very well, but
yeah.
But no, I thought it was going well. I just didn't see, where I had any much to contribute at that point because it was.
Yeah. Well, I think you would have, but I don't know, because we need a lot of chemistry, and there's a lot of chemistry involved in this.
Yeah, but Demeter, he has that pretty much covered, I think, to tell you the truth. I think so. Well,
yep.
I mean, enough. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
He has enough of it covered.
Yeah. Yeah, the amino isolation is a little tough, but anyway, nobody's going to know what the hell we're talking about.
So. No, that's true. Like a private conversation. Anyway. Give him my regards. It's been a while.
Tilting windmill. Let's see. So far, I've lost both of my legs have frozen off, and I'm trying to keep the rest from freezing off, because right above your legs, there's some really important things, and I don't want to lose anymore. So anyway, but I guess that would be freezing your ass off is what's next.
There you go. Anyway. And those other things are very cool. Yeah. Okay. I got it. All right.
Yeah. Plenty of stuff.
Where are you? I don't remember where you are. Where?
Minnesota, in Minneapolis, right at the hub
I've heard of Minneapolis.
What's that? Oh, you've heard of it?
I've heard of Minneapolis.
Okay. Well.
Wow, you're right in the middle of it, huh?
Right in the middle of it right now. It's really getting warm here in various ways, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Been interesting. So we got Scott watching chat in the back room. He decided not to come and talk. But anyway, I guess we could talk about. I've seen some of your politics. We could argue about that, I think.
Politics.
Yeah,
I don't
politics.
post.
But I think we should talk about old Earth evolution.
Okay.
There was an article that came out today in creation.com railing against guys like you, theistic evolutionists. Is that what you would? Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah, that's probably right. I'm in that.
And the doctrine of death, they call it the doctrine of death. So
the doctrine of death. That sounds
that's what they call.
I haven't heard that.
Theist.
Wait, creation.com. I'm trying to place that in my.
Oh, I can show it to you. Hang on a second here. I've got it.
It's just the website, or what is that?
It is. Yeah. This is it. This is by Philip Bell. And let me go ahead and make myself big. And then, I think I can do this. So no.
I don't know.
What is wrong? Why am I don't understand why I'm not showing up big. Anyway, yeah, Philip Bell, he's a cancer researcher, I think, a biologist.
Huh.
And he wrote this Theistic Evolution and the Doctrine of Death. They're making a big thing of evolution, like evolution is the theory of death. And I think it's the opposite of that. It's kind of like about reproduction and life and babies, more so than it is about death.
Well, I mean, technically, evolution requires death. So does life, actually.
Not evolution, but life requires death.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
right. Yeah, if there was no death, we would overpopulate this rock in no time, right?
Yeah,
it would. The bacteria alone would fill the place up, so it'd be like goo everywhere.
Yes.
So anyway,
here. It also refers to the scientific study of death. I don't know.
I can put a link. I'll put a link.
Well, it's all right.
Okay.
This is not. The guy is new. This particular thing is a little new, but I've heard stuff like this many times.
Yeah. Pain, death, killing, disease, thorns, struggle, suffering, extinction.
What's he saying? It doesn't exist? There's no death? There's no struggle? There's no thorn?
No, he's saying before the fall. None of this stuff. All of this stuff happened.
Okay. Yes.
The fall. Yeah.
That's right. That's the big issue.
Yeah. Well, I've got a take on the fall, basically, in the whole Genesis story, that it's a beautiful metaphor for the point in evolution where humans acquired brain function that would allow us to start reflecting on ourselves.
Yeah.
And also the brain function that allowed us to realize that we were going to die.
That's right.
Because animals don't die. In their minds, they don't die until they do. And they never suffer.
I don't think they think about it. Let's put it that way.
They don't think about it, right?
Yeah, that's sure.
Yeah, so that whole thing about what is it, the tree of knowledge they sometimes call it or something, or I don't. Yeah. Anyway, but that's
not supposed to eat from. Exactly right.
That's a wonderful metaphor for that happening to mankind, and other animals don't deal with that at all. They don't have to.
No, I agree with you. I've thought that for a long time. That metaphor is what it is.
Good.
And
speaking of,
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to death. You see that? That's a water cap.
Yeah.
If I put those on my tile floor and I wake up in the middle of the night and walk in there, zoom, my feet go.
You mean you haven't actually done that? I think I do it like 3 times a week.
I haven't gone down. But close.
No, I don't fall either.
Yeah. Well, I fell last year on January 16th, and it took until now for my shoulder to heal. I didn't break any bones, but I really wrecked my muscles around my shoulder, my right shoulder. So
wow.
I took a real heavy. I was like manic, and I was hauling water into my ex-wife's car, a big thing of water. I came back. I managed to get the water unloaded, fortunately. and came back, and I stepped on this ice slope that was pure ice.
Oh God, yeah.
And she said she heard my body hit the pavement like a big thud.
Yeah. Wow.
And I wrecked my hip too. So it took a while to recover.
Gotta be
but
careful.
no bones broken, so I don't have the osteoporosis problem.
Yeah.
I was reading about that today. In fact, there is for COPD, there's an inhaler that you take, and it attaches to this complex. I think it's a GP complex or something, and that ends up going into your nucleus, and it biases your body toward destroying more bone than it's replacing. So you got osteoblasts and osteoclasts.
Yeah.
And they have a balance, and one of the big functions of the bones in our body that people don't know about is to store calcium, right?
Oh, sure.
So you're always taking calcium out of that supply.
Right.
Well, this inhaler called Busanol or something like that, I can't remember the name, but it biases it so that it takes more bone out or more calcium out than it puts in.
Yeah. Oh, that's not good.
But it doesn't usually affect men. It affects women horribly if they take a high dose. So,
right.
Anyway.
Well, they have more need for calcium. That's well known.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's interesting. And the evolution of bones as being calcium storage in the beginning is something that I found very fascinating. That's one of the ideas that the first use of bone tissue was to store calcium, because calcium is so important in nervous system and everything else.
Right. Yeah. That started in fish, I guess. They were the first.
Yeah.
And
then they got bony. And then I've got a book called Bones and something else, but it's like a 2,000-page textbook on bones. And one of the things they talked about is that fish have a lot more different kinds of bone than we do. They have more different kinds of tissue. And some of the tissues that we have in bones that are diseased are similar to the fish's tissues, to the bones that actually do something functional in a fish. So it's very easy for us to, but for us, it becomes a disease when we get this particular transformation of the cell type. Yeah. And I found that very interesting. And that would be an answer. Like I've always used that as an answer when people say, well, why is evolution important in medicine? Well, that's one thing right there, because we have a trace. Basically, we have an idea of how the thing evolved and how it's not supposed to work, based on how it used to work in fish, and that's very interesting. So
that's one of many.
Reasons. Yeah, fascinating. So I think if I were a Christian, I would be an old Earth evolutionist from Big Bang on. And I know you don't go that far because you don't buy abiogenesis. And I would basically, the only supernatural thing I would believe in is the very beginning of the universe, and Jesus and resurrection, and the whole Jesus epic. And that would be sufficient to be a Christian.
Oh yeah, I mean most evolutionary creationists have exactly that view. I'm a little bit outside of that because, as you said, I find it's not that I don't believe in abiogenesis. I just think we're nowhere near understanding it, and that it's certainly possible that it involved a divine miracle, because we don't seem to be able to get there with the known laws of physics and chemistry. However, there's always the possibility that we're missing one, and I say that all the time, that we may eventually find a new law. In fact, that's what I propose in my last book, Beyond Evolution. That's what I have in that chapter. There's a chapter on abiogenesis, and it basically says we can't explain it now because we're missing something. We're missing a new law of nature that we need to have. That's not completely original. I mean, a lot of people think that way, that we're definitely missing something. But you can take that and say, well, there's you probably know this theory that's, been proposed by many people, and even Neil deGrasse Tyson has talked about it, which is that we're part of a simulation. It's extremely likely. The idea goes, it's extremely likely that we are not the most advanced species in the universe. That there must be other, highly sophisticated, advanced species that make us look like dumb animals in comparison. And one of them has probably set up a simulation, with their advanced technology that explains everything we don't understand about the universe, including why all the constants are the way they are, and including origin of life and everything else. And that, I saw a panel discussion of that idea by a bunch of very bright folks. Neil deGrasse Tyson was chairing it, and I can't remember exactly who else was. Max Tegmark was part of that. Okay. And they all seemed to think that was not. Some of them thought it was very likely. Others said it has to be, because there's no way, that there isn't such an advanced species or whatever, and everything about us makes it look like we're living in a simulation. That especially includes the problem of the fine tuning. So I thought, well, that's interesting, because that's basically another version of creationism, except that the person who made the simulation, or the entity that made the simulation, is not a really smart alien, working in his mother's basement, but the Lord God. But it doesn't matter. I mean, the whole idea of intelligent design is that, it's changed with time, but the original idea was, we're not saying it's God, we're just saying there was some intelligent agent that made the universe.
Yeah.
In fact, now they're saying, it's God. So, okay, that's fine. But that concept, is goes with a lot of the evidence that's there. But what's not taken into account with that view is what I just said, is that there could be, we don't know that we know all the laws. There may be something about chemistry we don't understand that allows for selection, for example, which you don't have. You don't have chemical selection in the way you have now. The project,
the
project that that's what I'm about to say. The project that we were doing, and that you and David are still working on, was all about that. It was about finding a way to show some form of selection early on in the chemistry that leads to life.
And so the latest
step in that direction, right?
So were you around with us when we discovered the Sutherland stuff with the genetic code? Right on that, I think it was on the 3' end of the RNAs. There was a specific code like CCUA, and if you had that on the very end of the tail of one of those RNA arms, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next 3 nucleotides ended up selectively picking up an amino acid for amino acylation. Those and they very, very strongly matched the genetic code. But they're in the wrong place, right? Because the codon is way down, the codon reader is way down the bottom. But I mean, it was like stunning that he came up with this research, and he's written Sutherland.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's written like 2 or 3 papers on it. And,
I missed that. I haven't been following I've been following some parts of abiogenesis, like Lee Cronin and a few other guys, but I haven't seen that. No, went by.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, but I think the missing laws that you're talking about are just involving complexity. We tend to be reductive. We get really reductive. Like, we want to know, this is made of electrons and nuclei or nucleus and neutrons and protons, and so we get really reductive. But what we never consider is what happens when you have 2 atoms, right? And they have a distance between them. Yeah. And if you have 3 atoms, you have a whole. I mean, there are many variations, right? And if you get 4 atoms, more variations.
Right.
And when you look at carbon chemistry, carbon is just perfectly situated at that sweet spot, right? On C6, and
Right.
it's positioned right in the middle, so that like silicon doesn't work because silicon has those extra shells,
That's
but
right.
carbon works because it's right there at that perfect balance between base and acid, that sort of thing, and it ends up creating this unbelievable complexity. Now, when I was 10 years old, I read a couple books by Isaac Asimov. One's called The World of Carbon, and one is called The World of Nitrogen. And these books, the first thing I did is sat down and tried to work out a mathematics of carbon combination, with just carbon and hydrogen.
Right.
And I spent countless hours in my room freezing my ass off. We had a farmhouse, and my dad used to shut off the upstairs in the winter. And he wanted us to all sleep in the dining room, me and my little brother and sister. So I refused, and I stayed up there, and it was 30 degrees in my room. My coffee would freeze solid. And I had bunny boots on and gloves, and I was reading all this organic chemistry. I remember so well from the time I was 10 to 13. And my dad was like, he'll come down eventually when he freezes, but I never came down. I stayed up there all winter. It was like 30 above, no shit. But anyway, so that's my introduction to carbon chemistry. And I was trying to work out this math of complexity back then. So it was something that's always fascinated me in my life, is carbon complexity and what carbon can do. And then, oh my God, it can loop around and form a ring, and then it can form double bonds in the ring, and then it can resonate. And oh my God, I just went nuts. And then I discovered heterocyclic chemistry, with carbon and nitrogen, carbon and oxygen, and I was off to the races. So I think the thing is there somewhere in that complexity. Now, the problems with abiogenesis that I have is concentration. Okay.
Right.
There has to be something, like whatever happened if we have, we have the metabolism first model, and then we have the one I like, which is RNA peptides, right? And those two things had to somehow get together, but they had to do it at a really high concentration.
Yeah, that's
in order to. So I mean, if and that is possible on some volcanic vents and stuff like that. So I don't see where it's completely infeasible.
Well, the solid state idea is what you're getting at. I mean, that's fairly interesting. I mean, when we were kids, we learned that life is all a solution of protoplasm, right? I mean, that was the old idea. So, but actually, as you know, most of life goes on in solid state. I mean, there's all kinds of solid materials on which things can adhere, and then you've got these metabolic pathways that are basically continuous cycles, and they're all attached. And that probably happened, I mean, this clay theory is pretty old, and that's pretty good, well established, that clays not only formed a surface for things to bind, but also had some catalytic activity. So that is one. I mean, I don't actually think that the real problem with the origin of life is that stage, the stage of prebiotic chemistry. I think that is making a lot of progress. There's a lot of ideas about how a lot of these chemical reactions that are now enzyme catalyzed and very rapid, they could have occurred. My problem is more related to the development and the necessity for biochemical machinery, especially the ribosome, because it's very hard to get life going unless you have that machinery already in
that
place.
Ribosome, right?
Yeah.
And that, of course, is what Demeter and I are working on.
Exactly.
And the Sutherland paper showing that those three nucleotides form a selective amino acid. And like, my question is, okay, they're up there on the tail end of this RNA. How in the hell do they get down on, the bulb where they can grab onto a messenger, But it's just stunning that pattern is there.
You have to look that up. It's not something I've noticed.
Yeah, maybe.
When it was published? fairly recent?
Within the last few years, like
Okay.
3 years, I think, something like that. He did a video on it on YouTube before he published, so he had a whole bunch of information in that video. And then we waited, I think, until I think it was 2024 or 25 that he actually published. But I'll see if I can send you papers on that.
Yeah, it'd be great. Thanks.
And it was interesting because there were one of them that I think wobbled between alanine and glycine, and I'm not sure, but it was like 50-50, right? With this,
Yeah.
so I mean, it wasn't a perfect codon thing, but it was definitely selection happening.
Yeah,
at some level.
and I mean, you can use alanine instead of glycine and vice versa all the time.
Yeah,
That's not a big deal.
easily. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, but very fascinating, and I guess when I'm in a spiritual mode, what I would call a spiritual mode, and I try to do that as much as I can in my life. That's the kind of thing that I would. Thinking is opposed to being in a spiritual mode. But if I'm gonna thinking about this beautiful complexity in the galaxies and the infinite. I mean, the universe, as far as we're concerned, is infinite. It's big, right?
It's big.
And thinking about all that stuff, and then I look out at a tree and I try to imagine all at once everything that's happening biochemically in that tree, right?
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with supernatural. That's all natural stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is, that is just so beautiful and brilliant. And so complexity is kind of my God. I think when people ask me, do you have a God? That would be it. It would be this.
I can understand that. I think that was exactly my view for most of my life. Sure.
Yeah. Yep. You had an experience that changed your view, basically.
Yeah, I had some experiences. I also had some intellectual ideas in that direction. It was, I think you looked at that book, that first book I wrote. So it was a combination of things. It took me quite a while. I mean, I was brought up, and of course, I think this story. I was brought up as a very strong atheist by my parents. So it was a lot of work to get me over to the other side. It wasn't easy, and even when I felt that it might be the right or the true thing, I still resisted it tremendously, and it really took a very strong personal experience to shake me. Otherwise I would still be an agnostic, which is what I had been most of the time. I was interested, like you. I was interested in spirituality. I mean, I read a lot about Buddhism and just general Teilhard de Chardin and Spinoza. I guess I read a little. I don't remember any of that now, but I was interested in the idea of mysticism because it seemed intriguing, and I thought this has to be connected with science somehow. I didn't know how, but it took a very strong personal experience to drag me over the edge.
Yeah. Teilhard de Chardin, I was reading him when I was 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, probably me
when
too.
I was working in Erie Mining Company, and I would go sneak up with my books up by this 8-foot tall electric motor, a 4160 volt electric motor that pulled these conveyors, and it would be humming. And I remember my book by him, I can't remember the book, but I thought it was like way out there. It's full of taconite dust.
Something like that.
Yeah. It's covered with taconite dust, but I remember being into that back then. And that was shortly after my Ellen Watts period was from 1965. Probably I started when I was like 14, 15 years old. 15 for Watts is. In fact, I was just about to turn 16, and I was reading Ellen Watts, and that's when I had that powerful spiritual experience that I had in my life that pretty much changed the course of my life entirely, and it's stuck with me ever since. and it was like a 3-day event. It was
Wow.
one of those like where everything was like white light, and everything was so crystal clear in my mind about my relationship, and it was as if I was standing outside of myself, observing mine and my father as individuals within this drama that was going on between us, and I came to this like complete peace with everything, to where everything that was happening exactly as it should. And that profound experience, it lasted about 3 days, and I remember trying to hang on to it. And as soon as I tried to grab it, it was like smoke and it disappeared. But it ended up affecting my entire life because I remember the feeling of it, right?
Very interesting.
And I had other experiences on overdoses of drugs and high doses of drugs that were similar. Where like there was one where I took an overdose of methamphetamine, and that was partially because of my suicidal behavior.
That is dangerous.
I took about a half a gram of pure methamphetamine hydrochloride, I think it was, and I had some tolerance at the time. But anyway, it kicked me into this mode that lasted for like a week and a half, where I had like this ability to see myself as if from without for a week and a half. But it wasn't as beautiful as that first experience. That first experience happened before any drugs at all. And it was a clean, I was sober, and it was a clean experience. The drug-induced experiences were never the same. They weren't quite the same, but you could get there. So
yeah.
But I'm always really interested in that. And I did have one experience where Jesus basically was above my bed, but it was. I understand what happened, and I understand that a lot of that is me retrofitting that experience with images of Jesus. I can tell because Jesus looked exactly like the portrait of Jesus that was hanging behind Reverend Peterson when I was going to church when I was 6 years old. So it was pretty obvious what I had done. But I had one of those powerful between sleep and wake experiences. That really affected me. And at the time, I was pretending to be a Christian. I was pretending to be an old Earth evolutionist, right? And I was in this website that required that you be a Christian to join. And I was trying to get them. They were all young Earth creationists, and I was trying to get them to understand theistic evolution. And so I posed as a Christian for about 2 or 3 months, and I had to keep up the facade, right? Because I was an atheist, right? And then I went to sleep, and I had that experience, and I got up and I deleted my account, and I never did that again because I thought it was dangerous. It's like, I thought, this is dangerous, Yeah. Anyway, but the whole, living spirituality to me is pretty much separating from my ego completely and letting my ego go out the window entirely. And we got a guy in the chat here called Kafai who does that with mushrooms a lot. And he's a pretty big. This is Kafai. I don't know if you've ever run into him or not, but he's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, so what the hell? I think we have a lot of common ground in all of that, except for doctrine. Well, I don't have the doctrine. Yeah.
Well, we're pretty much the same age, so I mean, we've gone through a lot of the same stuff, growing up and getting older.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
And we both love science. So that's a lot. And, spirituality was always important to me too, but I didn't know it. I thought that, I grew up, the big difference is I grew up as a Marxist. A Marxist? A Marxist, yeah.
Oh my God! Okay.
My parents were members of the American Communist Party.
Oh, okay.
30s.
So,
So
do you know about Cary, Minnesota?
no,
The A longtime president of the American Communist Party lived in Cary, Minnesota, up where I lived, up in northern Minnesota, and
which
they flew a Russian flag for a long time
mm,
in the city
no, I
hall.
didn't know that.
His name was Hall, in fact. I think
Oh,
something
Hall,
Hall.
yeah, Gus
Yeah,
Hall. Of
Gus
course.
Hall. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
my parents
When
know him well.
when I was
I
16 years
forgot he
old,
was in Minnesota. That's right. Now I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, he was up where I lived, up by where Bob Dylan grew up
Yeah.
in,
Hibbing.
Hibbing, Cary,
Right.
Virginia, Mount Iron.
Wow.
But anyway, when I was 16, me and my dad tore down an old house that belonged to a Finlander, and in the attic we went up there, and there were all these like stacks of brochures that they had printed up, and they were all molding and old. They're really old, and it was communisti something or another.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll never forget that. So obviously
Wow.
they were members of the communist. Okay, so go ahead with your story. You grew up as a
No, so
Marxist.
I mean that was, their atheism came out of that because atheism was an integral part of the communist doctrine.
Yeah. Why is
So
that?
that's basically, and theoretically, the other things that the other thing the communists were very insistent on was the absence of the reality of spirituality of any kind. It wasn't just Christianity or religion,
Right.
but
Yeah.
they were opposed to things like analytical psychology, psychotherapy. All of that was nonsense. Very materialistic.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how I grew up. But at some point, while I was reading about all this and learning about it as a kid, it struck me that there's actually something incredibly spiritual about this whole communist ideology, socialist ideology, I guess you would say, which it goes beyond politics, which is the
Yeah.
idea, basically, and I don't know if they would ever admit this, but that communism at its really deepest root has a very spiritual ingredient. And that comes from the idea that people are worth saving. People are worth compassion.
Okay.
In fact, it gets at some points it gets very close to Christianity.
Yeah.
And in fact, in some parts of the world, there were at one point several well-known bishops and other clergy, Catholic clergy, who were members of communist parties.
Yeah.
So that idea really resonated, I would say, in my soul, although not that well in my mind, because I adapted all the line, which is what you call how the communist doctrine is referred to as the line, that the party believes in.
Yeah, party line. Yeah, okay.
The party line, and that said very clearly that religion is a tool to manipulate and control the masses.
Yeah.
Christianity has a horrendous history of doing that. All of which is easily seen in historical records and things.
Yeah.
And but on the other hand, and of course I never read the Bible. That would be the last thing I would ever think of doing. But when you actually look at parts of the New Testament, where Jesus is talking about the poor and the least of these and compassion and love everybody, when I first read that, I was shocked. I said, wait a minute, that's not what I was taught.
That's socialism, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I mean, and anyway, so I think that in a way, without them meaning to, my parents were inculcating a kind of spirituality within me. And what it really came down to was a fairly simple idea, which is that human beings are special. You know,
Okay.
we're not just not just another animal that you know, if you're hungry, you can kill it and eat it. No, you can't do that. You have to, and you know, so therefore, people working 15 hours in a mine with very little to eat and barely alive, that's wrong. That's morally wrong to have people suffer that way. That's the basis of the communist view, at least the one I learned. And so, you know, that's something that I never lost. I mean, I still believe that people are worth saving.
Yeah. So we got a question here.
I see that. It's very interesting. It looks like what I'm just talking about. For
Something
something
like
like people are worth saving, what would make that spiritual and not just part of a philosophy, worldview, what have you? Well, I think it's both. I mean, when I'm saying it's spiritual, I'm saying that why would you? Yeah, it is definitely a part of a philosophy and worldview, but where does that come from? Why should we think that? Yeah, and this comment is also correct. The Soviet kind of communism would put spirituality in the hands of the state, not the formula of spiritual growth. Amen. I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
The problem with communism as it developed was it was not what I just said. It was not this view of being good to people. The Russian communists, the Soviet communists were not exactly good to people, and never have been since then. Stalin put an end to that. Actually, Lenin put an end to that, but the history gets really complicated. So anyway, my point
you're gonna
is,
love you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this next comment.
You know, that's interesting. Thank you. You know, I was thinking I don't know about me, but when I first looked at you, I said, "Oh, wow, you know, Mike looks pretty good. That's great, you know, because you
working out and eating right." So
yeah. So I guess that's thank you for whoever said that. As for me, I guess I'm hanging in there, but you know, how many pills do I take a day? I think I lost count.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. I think they put me on another one today.
Oh, man. Anyway,
trying to get my breathing back in order from
my point about the spirituality thing is that, you know, I derived from it a lesson that was not supposed to be taught. Although, yes, everybody I knew. I mean, I went to communist camps. My friends were children of communists. You know, all of this stuff, and the lessons that we got were pretty good. I mean, they were very into civil rights, although that gets to be very complicated, which I won't go into. But you know, they were very interested in equality, that people deserve to have good lives, and that is a spiritual view, because there are a lot of people who don't believe that at all. I mean, they'll tell you straight up. Especially, you know, there are people who I don't want to get into politics too much, but there are certainly people right now in this country, maybe a lot of them, who are going to tell you, no, not everybody deserves to have a good life. You know, only the people who are worth it. And sometimes that's racist, and sometimes it's other things. But you know, it's a view that I've never lost, and when I began to look into Christianity, it was kind of a revelation to me that this was coming from what I had thought had been the enemy. You know, from the words of Jesus himself was, you know, love your neighbor and love your enemy. What? Love your enemy? No.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep. Yeah, this one is there's plenty of compassion in the Old Testament. Loving your neighbor, welcoming a stranger, big themes.
Yeah, they're there, but there's also much the opposite as well in the Old Testament.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not going to ever defend the Old Testament because, you know, that some of it is indefensible. I don't think it's you know, terrible. I think it comes from historical influences that got in there. Anyway.
Leo's here. I believe Leo is a commie. Leo Phileas. I think
Oh,
he's.
Leo, I know Leo. Yeah,
Yeah, I
he's
think he's a communist. Isn't he?
around recently. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Soviets
Yeah.
weren't communist by any means. That's correct. That is correct.
Yeah.
They, in fact, one of the things that I used to hear from in the early '60s when I became a radical myself, is that I was part of the New Left movement, and
Yeah.
one of the and they were not pro-Soviet. That was very clear. And one of the things they said was that they're not communists. They're not real communists. They don't have that I guess philosophical and emotional commitment to the well-being of people. They're totalitarians. Exactly right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that was true. Stalin basically.
Yeah. Didn't that come from like the dictatorship of the proletariat? It was considered an intermediate phase or
Well,
something
yes.
like that.
So the original idea was that communism in a way, this is going to sound very Christian in a certain sense, and that is that everything was in the future. In Christianity, we talk about the kingdom of God coming to earth, and it's going to happen when Jesus comes back. It's not now. The communists had the same idea. They said, we're working towards a communist state, but what we have to do, first of all, and this was the influence of Trotsky, or at least something that Trotsky felt very strongly, was that you can't have true communism as long as that there are powerful countries that are non-communist. So Trotsky's whole idea was that we have to have a worldwide revolution. It's not enough
So
to have
imperialism. Yeah.
That's right. And China, as long as you have Europe, England, America, which are fighting, we can't. So he thought, and he had a lot of followers, that we have to have revolutions everywhere. And once the whole world sees the light and adopts, a socialist reality, then we can have, quote, true communism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
until then, it's going to be hell to pay.
Yeah, until then, it's going to be war, and it was the real problem with communism is that it was based on some scientific misunderstandings of reality of complex systems.
Right.
So they didn't understand. They didn't know about chaos. They didn't know about complexity theory, and the idea that they could plan an economy and make it work was just scientifically unreasonable. And so it fell apart.
I got to send a message to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Back to today. I forgot yesterday. Somebody sent me a message, Robin. Anyway, and then I went to sleep. So, but yeah, I don't know how much. We're awful damn close to politics, and I almost don't want to know where you're at, but.
Oh, let's see.
I don't want to fight with you.
I think ICE is doing a wonderful job, and all these protesters should be shot like the other guy. No.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
it's not a joking matter, so I'm sorry, but
Okay, if you're coming to Minnesota, you might want to delay your trip here because
I'm cold enough here in Maryland. I don't need to get colder.
You want to get your ass shot off.
And I don't want to get shot. Right.
Yeah, come to Minnesota with a sign like that. Yeah.
Frankly, I mean, I got to tell you, Mike, I know 3 or 4 good Republicans. I mean, by good, I mean
when aren't they president?
Republicans would say that they are wonderful people, and they are so they're just torn apart. I mean, this is like. No, we didn't vote for this. We did not.
We did. Yeah. So this is something else.
It's controversy, but the people who are saying, "Yeah, rah rah," I mean, who are they? I mean, and the crazy thing about this is it's not even debatable. You can just see it. What are you talking about? You can see what happened. So even if you think that ICE is fine, what they're doing is important. Which I don't. But if you did, You can't deny what they did yesterday. Was it
I
yesterday?
know.
I lost track of time.
Day before. Yeah.
Day before. You can't deny what they did. And then you have to ask yourself, why did they do it? What are they? Why? What's going on here? And the answer is terrifying.
It's a show. It's kind of a show.
It's a show of power and force. And we've been talking about communism and Stalin. Yeah. This is what Stalin did. It's exactly what he did.
Yeah. Yeah. There was an incident. The head of the Department of Corrections in Minnesota just came out and did a statement, and he said he's been reaching out to them because there was an incident where they marched a really old Latino guy out of his house in underwear, and they were looking for some pedophile, right? Well, the Department of Corrections said that they have been trying to reach out to ICE because that particular individual they were looking for has been in prison for several years in Minnesota. And he is going to be released in 2027, but he is going to be released into the custody of ICE. And that's what we do with those kind of people.
Exactly.
And they said if they had reached out to us, they would have found their guy. He's in Faribault in prison, and he has been for several years. And that's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous that they're not working with our police and our Department of Justice.
Because the reality is that this administration, and I never mentioned the guy's name either in print or live because I can't. I hate the idea of mentioning the name. But anyway,
saying it out loud,
the administration has a different goal. They're not looking for rationality. They don't even care about immigration. They don't care about. They want power and control any way they can get it, and that's it. And because that's what he wants. And I talked about Stalin before. I mean, that's the playbook. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, there are so many good Republicans that could be run. I'm even thinking that Vance might sober up if he were to get into power. And
nobody's as bad as this guy. I mean, I hate to say that because how can I say that? Because you never know. But nobody I've ever heard is like this.
I got a neighbor that voted for him in 2016, and we had a conversation in the backyard, and we definitely disagree. And I'm afraid to ask if he voted for him in 24. But anyway, he said that, I really like Trump because he's just getting in there and he's just kicking ass like a bull in a china closet.
Yeah. A lot of people like that.
Yeah. And if I see him out in the yard, I'm going to ask him, how's your china? How's your china doing?
That's great. Yeah, that's great. Well, if your china's still on the shelf, hold on. It's not going to be there.
Yeah, hold on to it. You put a bull in the china closet, what the hell do you expect?
Doesn't take long. It's going to be down. Anyway. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the 26 election, and I have no idea what's going to happen in 28. But like a lot of people, I'm very worried.
Yeah, really. I'm very worried too. Well, I'm worried about. I have a carry permit, and I carry a gun every time I leave the house, right? And it's always in my pocket. But now I don't care. I can't carry it now because I'm afraid that if they find it on me, they're going to kill me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a liberal, right? More or less. I mean, I don't know what it means anymore, but let's say I vote Democratic, whatever. And I think there should be more gun control, but I don't want to see guns eliminated. I got my my 9mm right here. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I got a 9, Glock 43 9, I think that I carry. Yeah.
Anyway. Mine's a Beretta 9mm, and
Yeah, but I'm afraid to carry it. I'm afraid to carry it because of what might happen.
Yeah,
because I think that's what they found. He had a gun on his shoulder, maybe on his chest or something, and they killed him because of that. It's just like because they overreacted, and I don't know what the hell the guy was thinking, but why did they? Because you could see the guy's hands. And you can see them holding his gun.
Absolutely.
And then they shot him. And it's like, oh, my God, if something doesn't happen over this.
Well, and it's not just that that one guy shot him. One guy fired. And then there were 5 or 6 other shots into the gun?
He fired, that one guy, I think, fired something like 11 times. I mean, like he emptied.
Shot him too. Didn't some?
I'm not sure. They all ran away. They all backed away. And he sat over him. And I think it was him shooting. he must have had a big, one of those extended clips.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's
he just kept. I mean, Jesus.
Well, then this guy needs to be.
He needs to go. Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be
But
taken care of.
yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid to go to the convenience store or the grocery store, and the three stores I go to, Walmart and Sam's Club and Home Depot, are all on American Boulevard, and I guess it's
Well,
just to pick with ice fans.
The first thing I said, which I wrote online on Facebook, is the Second Amendment is dead. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
So and I saw on Fox News, because I always like to see what Fox News is saying about things.
Yeah, right.
They had a guy on who was the head of the Minnesota Gun Owners Association.
Yeah, I listened to him.
Did you hear him? He was not happy. He was not
no,
happy.
he was not happy. Yeah.
And
there's
the Fox.
Yeah, what nobody knows.
Twist it and turn it, and he said, no, I mean, this is
Yeah. What nobody knows about Minnesota apparently is that a lot of liberals are carrying guns in their pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of us, and it's like, it's just something like I feel naked if I go out without it because I've gotten used to it.
Yeah.
But God, that carries with it a horrible responsibility.
Yeah.
And it is sometimes it's crushing because if you did see somebody getting hurt, you're morally obligated to help them and intervene. And I've wrestled with that in my mind over and over and thought about it. And 9 times out of 10, you would be wrong,
right,
in pulling a gun, right?
Okay.
And because you don't know who the bad guy is or the good guy is, right. You don't know what the hell's going on.
It's much more likely you're going to make a mistake than you're going to be a hero. That's right.
I know, and I just leave it in my pocket, and it makes me feel better for. If I ever get like some blatant assault where I can absolutely know for sure,
right,
that my life is being threatened.
I grew up in New York City, in Manhattan. I drove a taxi, at night for several years.
No.
And I was not armed because you can't in New York City. It's almost impossible to carry a gun with anything. But yeah, it was scary. I mean, because a lot of danger. And
you're vulnerable,
very vulnerable. Now I was a young guy. I mean, I was in my early 20s, and you know what they're like. I didn't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember one time I was driving in Greenwich Village, and I saw a guy on the street, and the next thing I know, he's got a gun and he's shooting it. It's not at me, but it's somebody.
Yeah, right.
And that's reality. But and if I had been armed at that time, I don't know what I would have done. Luckily, I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. For a while, I was advocating that we should take all these gangs in Minneapolis and take them to the shooting range and teach them how to shoot, so that they quit hitting bystanders and they actually hit the person that they're mad at. I think they should teach them to shoot. But you don't do it sideways. It's like that sideways shit ain't gonna work too well. Anyway.
Well, maybe that's how they got these ice guys. Maybe they're all gangbangers.
Right. Yeah, they're all gangbangers. I bet you a lot of them are just the kind of person that's just waiting to beat somebody up, because I've seen so much shit.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to get a little bit involved in some of the there's some groups, my neighbors even. There are groups that are
I think
looking
you have the right
for,
to remain silent. They're listening. They're listening.
I know, but I'm going to get involved in groups with. I'm going to help them with their database. So, anyway, and Scott, thank you, Scott. Yeah, keep it in my keep it in my head. But anyway, I want to basically. There's a whole bunch of people that are getting together and kind of organizing to help people, basically. Mm-hmm. And what we're looking to is to help and to document what's going on, so that we have this for the future, so that we know what happened here in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's important. That's very
because every one of these YouTube videos that they're like a flash in the pan, but every one of them carries a story with them.
Yeah,
and that story is eventually going to end up in civil courts, I believe, in the next 5 years.
Yeah,
but it's also something worth documenting for our future, so that we can never do this shit again.
No,
it's going to take 100 years to repair ourselves in the public Our relationships with other countries,
Yeah.
they're going to be at
About that.
it's going to take years for this to repair, because at any moment we could elect somebody else like this, right? It could happen again. It's
I
just
mean, talk about other
you know,
countries. Look at Canada. I know a lot of Canadians, and
yeah,
they are, oh my God, they're just they're in mourning. I mean, it's like,
yeah,
first of all, you know, I'm a member of two organizations that include Canadians, scientific organizations, and they're not coming to meetings. They're not coming here.
yeah, yeah.
Would you if you were living in France, would you voluntarily walk into Nazi Germany in 1938? I don't think so.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Could end up in jail anyway.
Yeah, at the best.
Yep.
So
Anyway,
terrible. It's just terrible,
yeah.
terrible.
Going back to the spirituality discussion,
Yeah.
To understand my atheism is like it's an understanding of what I am as an organism, and I don't think humans are like super special. I mean, we are phenomenal in that, we're actually figuring out what's going on out in the stars, for God's sake. So, I mean, we're like a chunk of protoplasm that's actually figuring out what's going on the other side of the galaxy, or
Right.
the other side of the universe. So, I mean, that is incredible. But as far as like my spirituality is based on ego dissolution and fully accepting my death, and that, before I was born, while I was still dead, okay, nothing was going on, and then I was born, and I have this arc of life, right, which in which I can create and do things, and motivate, and how I manage that arc of life, how much good I can do for my fellow conspecifics, the other people of my species, which I care about more deeply than I do other species, obviously. But to live that life as good and as fully as I possibly can, and then to gracefully die, gracefully let it go. And I'm going to let go of everything, Mike. Okay. My children and the people that know me and the people that watch these YouTube videos in the future are still going to keep a bit of me around and alive. But the letting go process for me, the complete dissolution and death, is something that I almost look forward to. And I've gotten to that point where I don't care about this guy as much as I care about the whole thing. The totality, and that's kind of what I work on, and what I'm working toward. Since I sobered up 18 years ago, I have been working on that AA spirituality,
Right.
in that sense. And I argue with some of my atheists because they don't like the word spiritual, and they won't use the word God in an AA meeting, and whatever you call this thing that basically I think is the totality and the beauty of the universe. You can call it God, or you can call it cat or dog or whatever. It's real, right? And it's there, and I endeavor to be as much a part of it as I can, to be as alive as I can while I'm still here. So that's kind of my atheism in a nutshell, and it comes from that Zen Buddhism that I encountered when I was 15 years old, right? It's obviously, but it was really cool when the first AA meeting I went to was when I was 24 years old. I was a raging alcoholic from the time I was 17 until 24, and I got thrown into treatment. I got thrown into treatment because I got busted for robbing $5,000 worth of guns and ammo from a Pomatus store.
Wow.
And I ended up, as part of my probation, I had to stay sober. And I ended up not doing that, and they threw me into treatment. But anyway, when I encountered the 12 steps, the 12 steps of AA, my first impression of them, I did not see the God word because I was a lifelong atheist. I did not say, oh my God, they're talking about religion. I said, this is just like Zen Buddhism. This is like a path to spirituality. The 12 steps, right?
Yes, that I think I got the same impression. I never went through that, but I know people who did. I got that impression too.
Yeah, I had a pretty rocky early years. I was a I was a professional or an industrial burglar, and just all kinds of shit. But yeah, I went through some shit, and then I worked in the mines, and then I was taking a course in DeVry Institute on color television electronics when I was like 22 to 24, 25. And then I sobered up, and eventually I got into going to school for digital electronics down here in Minneapolis. And I got away from the Iron Range, which is just the Iron Range is just a pit of alcoholism and drug abuse. It's unbelievable. And I got the hell out of there and came down here and sobered up for quite a few years. And I had slips in between. Most of my life I've been sober, I think, in AA. But anyway, AA is shit. I mean, my fellow atheists, they don't want to hear the word God. They don't want to hear spirituality. They don't want to hear any of this woo stuff, right? But I think they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. You know? And well, so anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you, and I think, you know, when I said I was an agnostic for a long time,
yeah,
during that period, I had similar thoughts and similar ideas. I just didn't care about pursuing them or looking into them deeper or whatever. And but the idea of negating the reality of anything spiritual, to me, is a mistake, because that reminds me of what I learned as a child, which I now reject utterly, and that is that human beings are purely material and nothing more than, you know, creatures. But for some reason, they deserve a good life. But that's never. It's not exactly specified why that should be true. So I think that you know, spiritual but not religious, which seems to be a very popular, especially among young people now, a very popular idea. I think that's not a bad life. I mean, if you understand the reality that not everything is purely materialistic, and if you reject total materialism, scientism, etc., it opens up a big vista, which is, you know, basically what you're saying that you did.
Yeah, but I am a scientist, and I embrace scientism, and I embrace physicalism totally, but I elevate the physical to the point of the spiritual.
Well, okay, but
that's the key. Right? You remember materialism back in the 50s and 60s used to be this dry sort of, you know, materialistic things, or you try to accumulate wealth or all that stuff.
Right.
That I reject, right?
Yeah.
So I elevate the physical to the level of God. That's what I do. That's physicalism.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you know, that's basically what I'm saying. If you elevate the physical to the level of God, then you're admitting that there's something higher than, you know, than just pure physicalism by itself. And by the way, a lot of famous atheists do this. I think Richard Dawkins does it. I think Sean Carroll does it. You know, these are all scientists, but one of the things that they and you and I have in common is that if you really study science, you know, in its deepest way, you can't help but see something beyond the purely. Now, they won't say it this way, but I'm saying it anyway. That I
would say beyond the reductive.
But beyond the reductive nature of everything, because as you said this before, if you study the universe, you can't help but be struck by the beauty, incredible spirituality of everything. I mean, it's not a simple, you know, easily understood set of rocks flying around in space. There's a lot going on, and if you get down to Earth and you start thinking about, you know, people and the things we do, it gets even more that way. I mean, it's just, I mean, think about love. I mean, you know, what the hell is that? It's not just a hormonal help in reproduction. It may have started that way.
Or the hormonal reproduction is elevated to the level of the spiritual.
There you go.
See, I
That's
always
right.
look at it from the other side. Anyway,
That's
that's the bridge. That is the bridge where you and I can meet in the back room and agree, and not agree on a lot of doctrine and things like that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of doctrine I don't hold to. So,
Yeah.
But that's one thing I actually like about Christianity as a religion is, and it's one of the things people criticize. They say, well, if Christianity is true, why is there so many different ways of being a Christian? And I think that's a strength, not a weakness. Because
Who's
sorry?
Who's Wally the atheist? Scott, is that you?
That's our new. What's the word? For the animal that represents your team or whatever.
Oh, the wombat. Yeah.
Wally the wombat. Wally the atheist wombat.
Atheist wombat. Okay.
We've got to have a representative here, a logo.
That's our mascot.
That's our mascot. There we go. Wally the atheist wombat. We need
how do we know that Wally's an atheist? Has he given any indication of that?
Well, when I said, "Are you going to church this Sunday?" he went and hissed at me. So
well, then you don't speak wombat, which I do.
You don't speak wombat,
and that's actually I was saying, of course I am.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll put it through the wombat translator.
There you go. So do you want a piece of Garte, Scott?
No, I just wanted to show off our new mascot.
Oh, okay,
I was
good.
trying to pull it up as something to screen share, but I'd have to put the image into a slide or whatever, and I wasn't having success doing that.
Yep. Anyway, I'm so glad. I feel a whole lot better about your politics, Si. That. Are you a Republican? Would you?
Oh, I've never. Well, I voted for one Republican once, John Lindsay.
Oh wow! I voted for a
New York. Yeah, I voted for him once. I don't remember why.
Yeah, I voted for Bush in 2000. So I was a Republican.
Republican for president. No, never did.
And I was a Republican because in my idea was for constitutional, strong constitutional adherence. And don't tread on me, stay out of my house, stay out of my sex life, stay out of my, Right. And the Republican Party obviously went in a different direction. I'm not sure what the fuck they think.
Well, I got to tell you that, I mean, there are some things that some liberals believe that I don't agree with at all. So I'm not going to go into
there's a few things. Yeah.
Liberalism has changed over the decades.
It all has.
Really haven't, but, so I sometimes I feel a little uncomfortable saying I'm still a liberal because I don't know what it means anymore. But anyway, but I'm certainly these days it's not an issue. It doesn't matter. I mean, even half the Republicans, all the Republicans I know, and probably a lot more are definitely on the side of reason and
we need a party called,
compared to what's going on in Washington.
We need a third party called the Middle.
Yes, amen. I agree with that entirely. We need, I don't know. I mean, look, my favorite Democrat is John Fetterman right now. He's in the middle. He's not he's not screaming about stupidity. I mean, he's in the middle, and I don't think he has a shot at it, but who knows? I don't know who's going to run.
Either Walsh or that guy from California who all the Californians hate.
Newsom?
Newsom. Yeah.
What about?
That's right. He's been making the talk circuit and everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in California do not like that guy. It's pretty amazing. I know a few who are very liberal but do not like him at all.
I see a comment here that I'd like to respond to. It seems to me that to categorize the majesty of this vast cosmos and all its mysteries by calling it magic and dropping it in a bucket is reductive and robs us of deep, true truth overall. I completely agree with that. And by the way, just in terms of magic, if you read the New Testament carefully, you will see several places where Christians and magicians have conflicts. In other words,
Okay.
the Christians are saying, no, it's not magic. We're not talking about magic. And there's a few verses in Revelations and some of the other, I think it's one or two of the letters of Paul where the question of magic comes up. There's a character called Simon the magician who could do many of the things that that Jesus did. And there's a whole discussion of it's not very long, but there's some discussion of the idea that magic is not what we're talking about. And in fact, one of the reasons that so many, not so many, pretty much all of the original European scientists were devout Christians, including Galileo and Copernicus and Boyle and on and on and on, is that they believed as part of their faith that the world was not magical. In other words, that there was order that could be identified scientifically. The whole basis of science was to get away from magic. And that was also largely part of the Christian worldview. So it's okay to say, I think it's perfectly fine to say you don't like aspects of Christian theology explaining things, and it's probably correct. But don't call it magic, because that's really missing the point.
I've never heard that before. I know there is that contention in the Bible, and I've seen that, but I never quite heard it put that way before. But that's interesting. Mm-hmm. I think the difference between the God that you and I hold to is just the robes that it wears.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, I went through all these stages. I mean, there was a point where I, was agnostic, but I thought there could be a God, maybe, but I didn't believe it. I doubted it very strongly. And I started thinking about various things. I don't think I would have ever gotten there, though, if it hadn't been the direct experience of the Holy Spirit coming to me at one point and just, turning me around. So there is that. And as I said, as we started this out, I said, that I was really, it was very difficult for me to change my earlier indoctrination, but it's hard to deny when something like that happens. and it's not uncommon. I mean, there's a lot of, there's several people who are writing about and showing videos of former atheists who come to faith. And a lot of people have these things in common. They either had left Christianity that they were brought up in, and then they went back, or like me, they never had it. And then something happened which really got them starting to think about it and consider it.
There are powerful experiences. I will not deny that, because I've had them, and several in my life. And major ones. In fact, when an alcoholic, what they call hitting bottom and sobering up, I've had some experiences in psych wards and jails and and the hospitals, and I had one in a rubber room, actually, with a straitjacket on. So there's something there that happens to you when you're at the very
bottom. You may
bottom.
know this, but I consider Aaron Ra to be a friend, and he's a pretty strong atheist. I mean, you can't get more. We've had some interesting discussions way back. I haven't talked to him in years, but but way back in earlier years, we had a couple of interesting discussions, and he had some experiences too.
Yeah,
and
he's a wonderful person, by the way.
Oh, he's a great guy. I absolutely agree. And anyway, we have a long history, but the point is that he had some experiences that he considered spiritual, and he rejected them, and probably for good reason, because there was something about them that was a little off. I don't remember the details now, but they were clearly not going in the right direction. So having an experience is not enough, and having an experience that just hits you in a way that this is true. That's rare. It doesn't happen very often.
The thing is, when those experiences happen to you, you take out a set of color crayons and you color a story around them.
Right.
and my religion or spirituality rejects that coloring crane box entirely and says, let's be agnostic about this entirely, about the nature of it, right? And I think that's where you and I would differ a little bit. But I don't want to press that, and I wouldn't want to take away from you whatever you're, because that oftentimes when you take out that color crane box, you do color a good picture, and there are forms of Christianity that are a very good picture. Me and my friend did something really interesting when we were 15 years old. We spent an entire summer in spring. We had been into Nietzsche and existentialism and all this bullshit, and then we decided to become Catholics for a summer. We decided on purpose to believe on purpose, right? We made a decision to believe. And we started reading the Bible and following through with a lot of Catholicism. And we had an incredible summer, and we had something that I would describe as spiritual, experiences during that summer. And then in the fall, we just shut it off, and we said, okay, we're done with that now. And then we went on to Buddhism.
Right.
But it was interesting. And the first thing that I read in Ellen Watts very early on was that you can don any religion. You can, like, you're putting on a coat.
Yeah.
But you have to keep it loose fitting and remember that you can take it off.
That's right.
And that was an interesting lesson. And that's kind of why me and Mac did it. It's why we went through this experience. But my God, we were seeing God in the clouds. And I mean, we had these wonderful talks and experiences, and it was a wonderful summer. And for that, I fell in love with certain aspects of Catholicism and, deep Christian mysticism during that summer.
Right.
Yeah. But then I took the coat off in the fall. And I haven't put it back on. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I got to actually, I'm looking at the clock because I have another thing to do. What time is it? I don't have any watch or clock.
It is 1:30 CST. You're out east, right?
Okay, then I still have time to eat lunch before 3. Okay.
Yeah, you're at 2:30. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on and talking.
Well, it was great. It was great, Mike. We could do it again anytime you want. I always like to talk, as you can tell.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into some bio stuff or talk about a little bit of deeper about evolution. They just discovered something new. If you look at Anton Petrov about this virus, this giant virus that appears to have some of the proteins that are involved in capping mRNA, the 5' end of mRNA, and a few other proteins that they found. And now there's another theory that the nucleus came from a virus invasion. And it's very interesting. But anyway, we could talk about things like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway,
so I'm going to end the stream. I got to say goodbye, cruel world, to everybody. Some people worry about me when I say that, but that's not what I mean. Okay, ending it. Also, saw you've written how many books now?
3.
You should send me a list and description, and I'll put it in my description of this video.
Okay.
So that people know where to find your books and buy them. I have purchased one of them, and the other 2, I think I got copies of. I don't know.
Yeah, well, whatever.
But anyway, yeah. My purchasing power has drastically reduced in the last 2 years.
I can send you PDFs of the other 2 if you want.
I would love that, yeah. And I will promote those because you write wonderfully. So anyway.
Yeah, by the way, the most recent one, I'll just say this really quick, it's called Beyond Evolution, but what it really is about, it's not anti-evolution, by the way, I still hold evolution, but what it's about is some amazing new discoveries in biology that most people know nothing about, and it's just incredible.
The extended synthesis sort of stuff?
Way beyond that,
Okay. Anyway. Yeah, send me some PDFs. I'd love to look at them.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to end, and we'll go in the back room for a second before you disappear. So,
got it.
Anyway, ending the stream.